Hi everyone. Today I am going to learn about federalism in India, understanding center-state relations with a case study related to Bihar. Um, so I am going to try and understand and learn more as much as possible for my answer writing practice. So if you want to join along, please be my guest, right? So, first, I will try to understand what federalism actually means. So, what is federalism? Federalism is a system of government where power is divided. Power is divided between a central authority and a various constituent units. So there is a central authority and there is a various constitutional unit called the state. So power for in India, uh, power is divided between the union government and the state governments, right? Key features of federalism. What are the key features of federalism? Point number one is two or more levels of government, right? So we have two levels of government. One is the center and the another one is the state, right? In India, we have the union, which is also called the central government, and the state government. Plus we have local governments like panchayats and municipalities. Point number two, each level has its own jurisdictions, right? Both can make laws. Center can make laws, state can make laws, and they can collect taxes and administer their areas. Point number three is powers are constitutionally guaranteed. The Constitution of India clearly defines what each level can do, right? What center can do, what state can do. So powers are constitutionally guaranteed. Constitution guarantees the power to the state. It allocates the power to the center. It allocates the power to the panchayats and etc. like different levels. Independent judiciary. The Supreme Court settles dispute between the center and the states. So if there are any disputes between the center and the states, the Supreme Court intervenes as works as a guardian body, and it try to settle the dispute between the center and the states. India's unique model, right? You must have heard of a term called quasi-federal, right? Now, here's something interesting. India is often called as a quasi-federal system. What does this mean? Right? Quasi-federal system is unlike pure federal systems like the United States, USA have a pure federal system. India combines features of both federal and unitary government. So federal is a two government system, unitary is a one government system. So what India does is India combines the features of both federal and unitary systems. Let's look at some of the features of a federal features. What features are included in the federal structure? So federal features would be written constitution with division of powers, independent judiciary, and bicameral legislature, meaning Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Bicameral legislature is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So you have two houses. Unitary features would be single constitution for entire country, single citizenship, integrated judiciary, strong center and emergency powers, and governor appointed by president, not elected. So these are unitary features coming from like a unitary system of government will have these features. This would be, they will have one single constitution for the entire country, they'll have a single citizenship, integrated judiciary, and then they will have a strong center and emergency powers, right? And the center will have the center would be really strong, and they will also have some emergency powers. Governor appointed by president, not elected. So in India, governor is elected by the president. They are not elected through what do you say, elections. They are not elected through elections. So these are the federal features and unitary features that is available in our in that is the unique model, which is a quasi-federal model. India's unique model is a quasi-federal model because of these all of these unique features. It's a combination of federal structure plus unitary structure. Now, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the architect of our constitution, designed in this way deliberately. In normal times, India functions as a federation, but during emergencies or national crises, the system can shift towards centralized control, right? So it means in the normal times you function as a federal as a federation, but during any emergency the center would take control, right? So the constitution doesn't even use the word federation. Article 1 says, and I quote Article 1 says, India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. It doesn't say federalism. It doesn't say federation. It says India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. This choice of word is significant. It emphasizes that states cannot secede from the union. So state cannot secede from the union. You can join India, but you cannot go away from India, right? So that's what it is trying to say. That's the Article 1 of the Indian Constitution. It says India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. Shall be a union of states. It doesn't use federalism. Now let's move into look into more about division of powers. The three list. So we have like we will talk about the union list, the state list, and the concurrent list. Now let's talk about the how power is actually divided. The constitution uses a unique system called the three list under the seventh schedule. Guys, remember can be important. It can be asked under the seventh schedule. It can be asked in like multiple choice questions. Under which schedule does this list fall in? Like they can ask this, right? So you remember this, that you remember the seventh schedule. So let's look at union list 1. This contains 97 subjects. List 1 contains 97 subjects. List 2, that is the state list. List 1 is union list. List 2 is the state list, and list 3 is the concurrent list. So list 1 contains 97 subjects. List 2 contains 66 subjects, and list 3 contains my battery is running low. List 3 contains how many? 47 subjects, right? So okay, so the union list, this contains 97 subjects that only the central government can legislate on. All right, so the key, I'm going to not read all the 97, but the key ones would be defense and armed force, the defense and armed forces, that belongs to the union list. Foreign affairs and diplomacy belongs to the union list. Then we have railways belongs to the union list. Then we have the currency and coinage, right? Currency is also, it belongs to the union list. Banking and insurance belongs to the union list. We have atomic energy, belong to the union list. Then we have interstate trade and commerce also belongs to the union list. Then we have citizenship and naturalization also belongs to the union list. Okay, now why are these central subjects? Because they require uniformity across the nation. Why are all of these fall into the union list, because all of these points that we read: defense and armed forces, foreign affairs and diplomacy, railways, currency and coinage, banking and insurance, atomic energy, interstate trade and commerce, citizenship and naturalization. What are these, like, why? Because they fall under the central subject, because it makes sense, right? It makes sense. You cannot have railway for your state, and you go into another state, you can have a lot of problems. So because they require uniformity, it has to be uniform throughout the states, right? So that falls under the union list across the nation. Now let's look at the state list. So we have some points that falls under the important ones, which falls under the state list. um, there are 66 subjects where state governments have exclusive power. Some of them I'm going to read out are: public order and police. Police belongs to the state. You know that, right? Police belongs to the state. Public order also belongs to the state. Public health and sanitation. Public health and sanitation also belong to the state. Agriculture. Agriculture belongs to the state list. Irrigation and water supply. Irrigation and water supply, right? So the is also belongs to the state list. Land revenues and land rights. So land revenues, land tax, and all those things belong to the state list. State public services. State public services, like, I'm from Bihar. There will be BPSC, just like we have in the union UPSC. We have BPSCs for Bihar, and like you can get into the police and state services, civil services through that. So state public services also belongs to the state. Local government, that is panchayats and municipalities, right? Panchayats and municipalities also belong to the state. Now we have the fisheries. Fisheries is just like a sector, and just like agricultural sector, fisheries also belong to the state. Now these are the subjects where local needs and conditions vary significantly. Now let's look at the concurrent list. This is the most interesting. We have about 47 subjects where both union and state can make laws, right? So the concurrent, so you have the union list, then you have the state list, where the union has the exclusive power, state list where the state has the exclusive power. Now we talk about the concurrent list, where both the union and the state will participate together to make laws, right? Concurrent list, the most interesting, this is the most interesting one. It says, so we have criminal law and procedure, right? Criminal law and procedure, this is one point where both the center and the states will participate to make laws. Marriage and divorce. Okay, this is interesting. Criminal law and procedure, marriage and divorce. Then we have forest department. It falls under the concurrent list. Economic and social planning, education, electricity, trade unions, and price control. All of these points that I read out falls under the concurrent list. I read it out again: criminal law and procedure, marriage and divorce, forest, economic and social planning, education, electricity, trade unions, and price control. But here's the catch, right? There is a conflict between the union law and a state law on a concurrent subject. The union law, if there is a, so it says there is a catch here. If there is a conflict between a union law and a state law on a concurrent subject, right, then who will win? The union will prevail. The union law will prevail, right? The union law prevails if there is a conflict in the in the concurrent list. Both the union and the state will work together to make the laws. Let's say, for example, there is a in certain subjects or topics, there is a, what do you say, there is a conflict between the there's a conflict between the union and the state laws. Now what happens if there is a conflict, right? If the state says something else and union says something else, whose decision is going to be, whose decision is going to prevail? So the union decision is going to prevail if there is a conflict. um, this is another centralizing feature, like so every time there is an argument, the union wins, right? So every time there is an argument between the state and the center in the concurrent list, the center always wins. This is a feature of what? So state never wins, in terms of conflicts. The union or the central government always wins. So this is a feature of the unitary government, right? Not the federal government. It's a centralizing function or a feature. We have residuary powers. What about subjects not mentioned in any list? So there can be that there are certain subjects which are not mentioned in any of the list, in which are not mentioned in the list. These residuary powers belong to the union government. These residuary powers belong to the union government. Um, this includes newer areas like cyber law, space technology, etc. Right. So residuary powers, areas like cyber law, space technology, etc. They belong to the union government. Um, as you can see, the union list is the longest and covers the most critical areas, right? So we saw that the union list contained about 97 subjects, state list was about 66 subjects, and concurrent list only 47 subjects. So union list has the most, is more vast, um, and is more vast and covers more critical areas. This is why scholar says Indian federalism tilts towards the center. Now there can be questions where it says like Indian federalism tilts toward the center, because the most critical areas are controlled by the central government. So we can say that yeah, it tilts in favor. And also there was this point where in the concurrent list, if there was a conflict between the center and the state, the center decision will always prevail. So I mean, it's always this science or these instances shows that the federalism of the Indian government system is the federalism in India is tilting toward like a tilting toward the central government, towards the center. Financial federalism. Next point we are going to understand is what is financial federalism. Um, power isn't just about making laws; it is also about money. So let's understand financial federalism in India. Revenue distribution. The constitution divides taxing powers, right? Revenue distribution, this is one important aspect of federalism, is like who is going to tax on what, who is going, like the center can have some revenues, the state can have some revenues, then the center can have some revenues, right? And so we're gonna read about this now. Power isn't just about making laws, it also says it's also about money. It's always about money. It's not always, but yeah, it's also about money. Money is important to run a government. Let's understand financial federalism in India. What's the revenue distribution looks like? Though revenue is like what? Tax collection, generation from other sources. So the income of the government is called the revenue, right? Uh, the constitution divides, you should know that the constitution divides the taxing powers. Union can levy taxes on, there are certain things where the union government or the central government can levy taxes. There are certain commodities or certain things where the state government can levy taxes. They can levy the taxes, they can tax people. So what does it like, what are union governments can levy tax on? Income tax, right? Except on agricultural income. So income tax, your income, like you're earning a salary or whatever, like so your whatever your income is, the central government is going to tax you on that. Then you have custom duties. Custom duties, the amount that you pay for it at the customs, tax at the custom is called custom duties. So you pay that, that goes to the central government. Then you have corporate tax. You work in a corporate tax is like you work in a corporate tax, right? Simple. Then you have GST shared with the states. Now, states can levy tax on what? So there are a few things where the state can also levy the taxes, like agricultural income tax. So so you have seen that in the union, the income tax was tax like given to the central government, but agriculture was excluded. That comes falls into the state under the state jurisdiction. So agricultural income tax. Then you have land revenues, like you have your land, you pay tax on your land, so that goes to the state government. Then you have stamp duty, state excise duty. Excise duty in the state, like you must have seen while traveling on the road, sometimes you must have seen like excise stations, so they charge you excise. Mostly it's like related to forest products or things like that. They charge you excise, state excise duty. Then you have GST, which is shared with the say union. So GST is shared with the state GST and CGST, right? Central GST. The problem is the union government collects much more revenues than the states, but states have more expenditure responsibilities. This creates a vertical fiscal imbalance. So there is a vertical fiscal imbalance. There is a term here. Okay, let's try to understand what this term means. So what happens? You saw that the union, the taxes that goes to the as revenue to the union government, and the tax that goes as revenue to the state government. Now there is a lot of difference there. So the union government is able to collect much more tax than the state government is able to collect. But the thing here is, but the problem here is that the state government has to do the most expenses, has more expenditure responsibilities. State government has to do things for his state and development and etc., like infrastructure, building infrastructure and everything, looking upon like it's taking care of the state. It has more expenditure, which creates, now because of the difference in the revenues and the responsibilities shared, the state government and by the state government, this creates a sorry, what do you say, vertical fiscal imbalance, right? It says here this creates a vertical fiscal imbalance. Now what is the solution to this problem? Let's look at what is the solution to this problem. The solution is a finance commission. You must have heard about the finance commission, right? So every 5 years, let's read a little about the finance commission. Every 5 years, the finance commission recommends how much of union tax revenue should be shared with the states based on the expenditure of the states, right? Every 5 years, the union government, there is a finance commission. Every 5 years, the finance commission recommends how much of union tax revenue, the tax revenue collected by the union, should be shared with the states. Currently, states get 41% of the divisible pool. Currently, state gets about 41% of the divisible pool. So the center collect the tax, then give back about 41% of the total bounty to the state. How this should be distributed among states based on various criteria. There are various criteria on how this money should be distributed among all the states, right? So criteria for distribution are population. There are some criteria for the center to give money. So let's say we have all different states. Now I'm the center, I collect all the taxes, right? I collect all the taxes. Now I have to distribute them with like based on the needs. Let's say, oh, that state is very small, it has less population, I can give them less money. Less money can do, I can give them less money. Though this is a bigger state, they need more money for their expenses. Their expenses more, of course. So I have to give them more money. So I have to kind of take that the center has to decide based on criteria, and these are the criteria. One is population, both current and demographic performance. Then we have area. Area is also a criteria for distribution. Then we have forest cover in that state. Then we have income distance. So income distance is like the poorer the state, they get more money. Okay, the poorer state get more money. And then we have the tax effort. Union grants. Now next point is we're going to read about union grants. Sorry, ground, no, it's union grants. Beyond tax sharing, the center provides statutory grants. Like so apart from the tax sharing, okay, the central government also provide grants. It's like an additional bonus or something to kind of help a special section of the society or the state to kind of just come to the balance, like to develop. This is like an extra help. So this grant is like an extra help the center provides. So there are three kinds of grants, that is statutory grants, plan grants, and discretionary grants, right? So what is statutory grants? Statutory grants is recommended by finance commission. Statutory grants are recommended by the finance commission. Plan grants for specific schemes, now through Niti Aayog. So you must have heard of the Niti Aayog. Niti Aayog is replaced the planning commission. I think it was replaced in 2016. Please put it in the comments if I'm wrong. So for specific schemes, plan grants are given through the Niti Aayog. Then you have discretionary grants under Article 282. So guys, please check out the Article 282 what it says. But there is something called a discretionary grants, and it relates to Article number 282. Based on this article, the discretionary grants is provided. Next, we have a point about centrally sponsored schemes, CSS, right? Centrally sponsored schemes. This, let's read about what it says. These are schemes where the center designs the program but states implement it. Okay, so centrally sponsored schemes, CSS, is designed by the center, implemented by the state with cost sharing. Okay, so for example, Maganrega, right? MGNREGA. Maganrega is like a rural employment. PM Awas Yojana housing plan. National Health Mission. Then you have the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, education, related to education. Now critics argue CSS reduce state autonomy because state must follow central guidelines even in state subjects like health and education. So there is a contradiction here. So all of these points, Maganrega, PM Awas Yojana, National Health Mission, and Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, education, all of these are designed by the center, but the state has to carry them out, execute them. Now yeah, because some of these falls into the state subject. Remember, health, like public health, education, this falls into the state list, but now according to the centrally sponsored schemes, these are like the center has to give the guidelines and state has to follow. So there is a contradiction there. So that's what it says. Critics argue CSS reduce state autonomy because states must follow central guidelines even in state subjects like health and education, right? Now that's point. I hope it's clear. We move to the next point. Center state relations in practice. Now center state relations, right? In, like, we all know center and the state have a relation. They're sometimes good, sometimes bad. But how does it look in the practical world? We'll try to understand. Theory is one thing, but how does federalism work in practice? Let's look at some real dynamics. One, political dynamics. Then there are political dynamics when the same party rule at the center and the state, right? Political dynamics, looking from the political angle, when the same party rules in the center and the state. Like, let's say for example, BJP is the party now ruling in the center, and also BJP is also the party ruling in that particular state. Relations are usually smooth. Relations, of course, the same party ruling, relations are usually smooth because it's the same party, so they will listen to each other. But when different parties are in power, tensions can arise, right? Makes sense, right? So when different parties are in power, they don't like to listen to each other, and they think that, hey, I'm right, and then they say I'm right, and then they fight. Governors becoming sources of friction since they are appointed by the center. Now if the center has one government, and one party, and the state has another party, then what happens is that since the governor is appointed by the president, right? It's appointed by the center. Now governor can be taken as, the state can accuse that, saying that, hey, governor is taking the side of the center. So that friction can happen. um, Governors becoming sources of friction since they are appointed by the center. Then you have delays in granting assent to state bills, right? Delays in granting. So it can happen, hey, I don't like this state political party, I don't like this. So it's all the tendency. I'm not saying that this cannot happen, but this can happen, that, hey, due to some tension between the state center and the state, the center would say, hey, block their bill. You know what? Block their bill. Block kar de. Don't pass their bill. So they will not make it smooth. They will not make it easy. Now there will be certain things like disruptions and all that, and then they will then finally pass the bill. So the smoothness is gone, is what it's trying to say. It's possible. It's of course possible. Um, Delays in granting assent to the state bills, and then use of Article 356, which is the President rule, through Supreme Court has Supreme Court has restricted this after the SR Bommai case 1994. The President rule has been the Supreme Court has restricted to use the Article 356, but political dynamics, it can also fall. This use of Article 356, that is the President rule, can also fall under the political dynamics. Guys, read about the SR Bommai case. What happened in SR Bommai case, 1994. Okay, that can be a question that you can have an angle about that case. It's important. It's related to Article 356, which is also known as the President's rule. Next, that's political dynamics. Now we'll look at interstate council. So there is something called the GST council. There is also something called the interstate council. Interstate council is responsible to establish, interstate council is established under Article 263. Guys, remember these articles. It can be asked as a multiple in the prelims exams. It can be asked article established under Article 263 to facilitate cooperation, but critics say it doesn't meet regularly enough. I don't know what that means, but yeah, just the sentence, I read it out again for you. Interstate council was established under Article 263 to facilitate cooperation, all right, between the center and the state. It was interstate council was established to facilitate cooperation, but critics say it doesn't meet regularly enough. So I mean, there's no meetings, and they did establish, but it's not functioning properly, is what they're trying to say. Next, we look at the GST council. A successful example of cooperative federalism is the GST council. GST council is very successful. They have, it's usually counted as a successful uh, a successful example of cooperative federalism. Both union and state work together on tax policy. It's a constitutional body where state have significant say. Now, remember when we talked about the concurrent list, we had the center and the state. If there was a conflict, the center always wins. Center decision always wins. But here in the GST Council, the center also has a quite amount of power to say their, like, to say what it feels is right and to put their point of view, right? Next point is Niti Aayog. Niti Aayog is also replaced, as I said, Niti Aayog replaced the Planning Commission in 2015, meant to be more consultative and respect state autonomy in planning. Niti Aayog was established, and it was meant to work as like a consultant, not like a dedicative power, but it was meant to be more like a consultative power, and at the same time, it also was like designed or meant to respect the state boundaries as well, state autonomy in planning. That's Niti Aayog. Then we have the emergency provisions. The Constitution, let me read this through. The Constitution gives the center extraordinary powers during emergencies, right? So during any emergencies, the Constitution does give the center more power, more power. National emergency. There are three kind of emergencies: national emergencies, state emergencies, which is also called as the president's rule, and then we have financial emergency, right? So national emergency is Article 352. Please remember this, guys. It can be asked in the exam. National emergency is Article number 352. I'm feeling sleepy, man. National emergency is Article number 352. Union can take over state functions. Now, during national emergencies, union can take over state functions. Union can take over. State will have no power, right? If national emergency is declared, there is no state government. There will be only the power will only be utilized by the central government, right? That's a national emergency, Article 352. Now, state emergency or president's rule, Article 356. Article 356, state government dismissed, governor's rule on behalf of president. So, as the name suggests, president's rule, right? So, president is going to rule. Governor is the person appointed by the president. So, it will be governors will be ruling that particular state. The government is dismissed. All right. So, the government is off during the president's rule, Article number 356. Yes, state government is dismissed. The governor will rule in place of the president, because president appoints the governor. So the governor will rule the state. Now we have a third one, financial emergency. It has never been used in India, but this comes under Article 360. Financial emergencies. Recent trends, there is something called, I have some points for recent trends. Cooperative federalism. The current government emphasized this, working together on schemes like Swachh Bharat, Digital India. Okay, so this is a cooperative federalism. You can just what does it mean is that the current government emphasizes this, like they want to work with the state and the center, and they want them to work together on schemes like Swachh Bharat, right? Of course, cleanliness, hygiene, work on the like clean India, green India, digital India, those kind of like schemes. The government wants the state and the center to work together. It's for better implementation and efficiency. Then we have competitive federalism. States competing to attract investment, improve ranking, ease of doing business, right? Competitive federalism. uh, what does it mean? States competing to attract investment. So one state competing against the other state to attract investment, right? So like setting up a manufacturing plant for one state to another, they're trying to attract the companies to come and invest in their state, to also be able to they want to ease of doing business. So if you want to go to a state, if they have so many laws of so many laws that you need to follow, it's so complicating, you don't want to do business there. So what you do is you look for a state where it has less, which is more simpler and which makes it more easy for you to do business there. So that's what it means. Then we have a term called asymmetric federalism. What is asymmetric federalism? Special provisions for some states through Article 370 for J&K was abrogated in 2019, right? So Article 370 was abrogated. So asymmetric federalism was because there were some special provision given to some states. Jammu Kashmir is just an example. So they kind of took that back. So that's a special provisions to some states through Article 370. 370 is the article where through which there were special provisions given to some states. Remember this, we abrogated that in 2019. Now all states are equal. There are some challenges. Challenges would be like, I'm going to just read this through. Centralization concerns. Many state governments feel the center is encroaching on state subjects, right? So this is one of the challenges that we face. Like, we will it's always there. Like sometimes when there are different governments in different political parties ruling in the center and the states, the center can always say that, hey, they might feel that the center, and it can also be the case that the center is encroaching into the state subjects. um, then we have fiscal dependency. States rely heavily on central transfers. So like states has to always rely on central transfer to do their for their expenditures, to do their jobs and things like that. So that's fiscal dependency. This is one of the challenge. Then we have one size fits all policies don't work for diverse states. Now some states need more grants, more kind of support. Some weaker states, some where they need more uh, support. So one size fit all does not really help. Then you have coalition politics can complicate center-state relations. Coalition politics is like, what do you say? So there is a party in the state. There's a party who has there's no absolute majority in the election. So they form the government. Two or three parties combine together and form the government, right? So that's coalition politics. So coalition politics is just like, if there is no absolute majority, the majority party can, some party can join, and this is where the kingmaker and those things can comes into the picture. So they just form two or three political parties combine together and form the government. So that's coalition politics can complicate, because again, so because there are so many minds, right? So many people, so many parties involved, they have their own agendas. So this can really complicate the situation, is what it's trying to say. So what it's trying to say, right? And then so those are the challenges. One is centralization concerns. Fiscal dependencies is the state depending on the center. Then we have one size fit all policies, and then you have coalition politics. Now we want to read about Bihar as a case study. Now let's bring all these theory to life by looking at Bihar, India's third most populous state with over 125 million people. Bihar's position in Indian federalism, political representation. Lok Sabha we have 40 seats, one of the highest. Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha we have 16 seats from Bihar. For Bihar, this gives Bihar significant voice in national politics. Governance structure. What is the governance structure? Governor appointed by the president, currently Rajendra Arlekar. It's 2026. Rajendra Arlekar is the governor of Bihar. Then we have the chief minister as the heads the who heads the state government, currently Nitish Kumar. Then we have bicameral legislature, Vidhan Sabha. Bicameral legislation, Vidhan Sabha 243 seats and Vidhan Parishad 75 seats, right? So bicameral legislature comprise of Vidhan Sabha and Vidhan Parishad. Vidhan Sabha has 240 seats, 43 seats, and Vidhan Parishad has 75 seats. Now Bihar's federal challenge. What are the Bihar's federal challenge? One is fiscal dependency, right? Fiscal dependency is the Bihar is one of the India's poorest states with limited own revenue generation, heavy dependence on central transfers and finance commission grants, low tax to GSDP ratio. Then we have it receives special category treatment in many central schemes. That is the point for fiscal dependency. And Bihar is dependent on the center for a lot of things, right? So it is limited own revenue is very less. They are not able to generate their own revenue, which is sad. Development disparities. Development disparities. Bihar faces unique challenge like infrastructure deficit, high poverty rates, educational and health indicators below national average. This requires more central assistance but also raise questions about state autonomy. So I don't really think this is like a challenge because Bihar is growing great. Like there are so many things the government is doing. Um, Schools, hospitals. Yes, of course, the standard has to be raised a little bit. That's important. But yeah, development disparities are there. Bihar faces unique challenge like infrastructure deficit. There is very little infrastructure. High poverty rate. Poverty rate is really high. Educational and health indicators. Yes, although there are so many hospitals and all those things, but the quality of services provided is very not so good enough. So you see people like for treatments, they're going out to different states. Um, Center state cooperation examples. Positive is like Jal Jeevan Mission, providing tap water connections in rural Bihar. Then we have PM Gram Sadak Yojana is a rural road connectivity. So National Health Mission is improving healthcare infrastructure. These are the positive between the center and state cooperation has resulted in positive outcomes. Jal Jeevan Mission, they have provided tap water connection to like in rural areas, provided to every household. Then you have PM Gram Sadak Yojana, building rural road connectivity to like as much as possible. Then you have the National Health Mission, improving healthcare infrastructure. Tensions flows in these areas. I'm going to read out some points. Debates over special category status. Bihar lost it after 14th Finance Commission. So special category status, Bihar lost that special category status after the 14th Finance Commission. So we have debates, and that's a tension area over the special category status. They want it back. Disputes over central project implementation. Then you have concerns about concerns about adequate representation in central planning. Concerns about adequate representation in central planning. Now we have interstate issues. Bihar federal relations aren't just with the center. Water disputes with neighboring states like Gandak, Kosi River water, etc. Migration, large scale out migration to other states for work. Interstate Migrant Workmen Act protects Bihari workers in other states. Bihar's legislative powers. Under the state list, Bihar has made laws on land reforms, Bihar Land Reform Act, under the Bihar Land Reform Act. Then you have Prohibition, Bihar Prohibition and Excise Act 2016. Then you have Local Governance, Bihar Panchayati Raj Act. Political dynamics. Bihar has been various Bihar has seen various political configurations, periods when the same party rules center and states, right? Periods of coalition government with different alignments, use of president's rule in the past, though not recently. Uh, that is political dynamics. Then we have Bihar's voice in federal institutions, active participation in GST Council, representation in interstate council, Niti Aayog consultations on state development plans. Success stories. Despite challenges, Bihar has shown progress, improved law and order situation, growth in education enrollment, infrastructure development through central state partnerships, digital governance initiatives, etc. So these are some of the success or the positive outcomes that has happened recently, in the recent past. What Bihar's example teaches us. Bihar illustrates both the strength and weakness of Indian federalism. Strength is central support helps resource poor states develop, right? Resources of the center helps the poorer states to develop. That's one of the point. Then the weakness is heavy dependence on center can limit state autonomy, right? So if I'm always dependent on you, I lose my autonomy, right? I'm dependent on you or everything, so I lose my autonomy. I have to ask you about everything and I dependent on you completely. This is not nice, actually. Reality is effective federalism requires both cooperation and respect for state rights. Okay, so next is contemporary debates and conclusion. Right, we're gonna conclude. It's already been almost an hour, so we will look at the. As we wrap up, let's look at the current debates about Indian federalism. Key debates are centralization versus autonomy. Centralization versus autonomy. Are we moving towards more centralization? Question, right? That's a big question. Do states have enough fiscal and policy autonomy? Another question. And how to balance national unity with regional diversity? Right? Next point is fiscal federalism reforms. Should revenue sharing be increased beyond 41%? That's a big question. Are finance commission criteria fair to all states? How to reduce state dependency on central schemes? That's fiscal federalism reforms. Next, we have cooperative versus comparative federalism. Is cooperation always possible in a multi-party democracy? Right? Can competition between states lead to better governance? Can it lead to better governance? I leave it up to you, viewers, to be able to answer this question. It is very strong questions. What is the right balance? Right? The next point is special status demand, right? The Bihar demanding for special status. What does it get? Several states demand special category status. Is uniform treatment fair given diverse development levels? Right? Next point is how to discuss regional disparities. The way forward. Indian federalism is not static. It's constantly evolving for it to work effectively. So Indian federalism is not static. It's not fixed. It's constantly evolving based on the need of the hour, and also for it to be effective or remain effective. State needs greater fiscal autonomy, more say in centrally sponsored schemes, respect for their constitutional powers. What does the state needs? The state needs greater fiscal autonomy, more say in centrally sponsored schemes, respect for the constitutional powers. What does the center needs? Let's look at what does the center needs. The center needs ability to ensure national unity, power to address interstate issues, and capacity to support weaker states. That's what the center needs. Both need, what is the things that both need? Regular consultation through interstate council, cooperation approach in GST council, respect for constitutional boundaries, and focus on citizen welfare over political conflicts. That's the most important thing. The government is there for the people, so you focus on the people welfare rather than focusing over political conflicts, right? Don't worry about the political conflict, focus on the people, focus on the development of the people, right? Okay, next is conclusion. Federalism in India is a delicate balance between. I'm going to just read out the conclusion. You can use it to write your answer, frame your answers. Federalism in India is a delicate balance between unity and diversity, between central authority and state autonomy, between cooperation and competition. States like Bihar show us that federalism isn't just about constitutional provisions, it's about how these provisions work in practice for real people facing real challenges. As Dr. Ambedkar envisioned, our federal system must be flexible enough to adapt to changing circumstances while remaining strong enough to hold our diverse nation together. The success of Indian democracy depends on making this federal bargain work, respecting both the union and the state in our union of states. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, let me read out the last one. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, please like, subscribe, and share this video. Drop your questions in the comment, especially if you want deeper dive into specific aspect of federalism or other states as case studies. Until next time, Jai Hind.